various programs and services that we provide.
Sure.
Oh, and I'm in the way.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That work?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so what is Title I? So the purpose of Title I is to provide all children significant opportunity to receive a fair, equitable, and high-quality education and to close educational achievement gaps. Title I is a federally funded program under Elementary Secondary Education Act, all this great stuff that passed in 2015.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt one more time. Can you stand right here?
Ooh.
The best.
Do whatever you guys want. Is this good?
You're right. There.
This
There.
is why I'm going
That's
first.
right there. Right there.
And you guys are gonna look awesome. Okay, so the goals of Title I here at George Washington Academy are to help students achieve proficiency and growth on rigorous academic standards, close achievement gaps, build teacher capacity through high quality ongoing job embedded professional learning opportunities, and to support parents in helping their children succeed through meaningful, high quality parent, family, and community engagement activities. So what are the goals at GWA? So at George Washington Academy, we are committed to the success of all students. So in 2022, 2023, so this current school year, we are focused on improving our overall reading and math proficiency and growth for all students. We're also committed to a 1 to 9% increase in the RISE state assessment for grades 3rd through 7th grade. And so, yeah. And so here we go. So this is the early RISE summative data that we have. So in last school year, these were the proficiency that we had for each of our subjects in each of these grade levels, 3rd through 7th grade. As you guys can see, this was our growth goal, or my bad. So this is where we met. All backwards. Sorry. This is where we ended up. So no, I'm right. Okay, this is our growth goal. So we want at the end of this current school year to be right there. So we're looking for 3rd grade math and ELA. We want to get a 5% increase in math, an 8% increase in ELA, and we can follow that all the way down. And I'll leave this up just for a little bit. So these were our proficiency grades, our scores this last school year, and this is our goal for this upcoming school year. Sorry, I was all over the place. So you can see down here, we're looking at in the next 3 to 4 years, we're hoping that all of our proficiency is at 80%. And so that's how this was measured. So that's where this comes from.
What does that compare with the state?
So with the state, we're anywhere from 15 to 20% higher than the state average. And then district, we're anywhere from 10 to 15% higher right now. So, and like I said, our goal is to get to 80%.
So it's not beginning of the year, end of the year.
No, this is a summative, happens in spring. Yeah, good question. So we talked a little bit about where we're going to spend our Title I funds and how does this support our goal. So we provide additional support for students struggling in the areas of reading and math, and we'll provide additional time for students who are struggling in those areas and implement instructional coaching supporting by trained professionals. By having students participate in this intensive intervention, the students will achieve at higher levels. So the accountability, so our many of our employees that are paid with Title I funds, they have a time and effort form showing where their time is going with working with these students. And then we are constantly monitoring students who are low performing in reading and math, and that's through our Acadience benchmarks and Acadience progress monitoring. And then we're also evaluating, having the evaluation of professional development, job embedded training, and instructional coaching for our teachers. And then we've got our family education and support. So we will continue monthly family education nights like tonight. And these happen monthly. It's happened monthly where families will learn skills to help their students succeed academically as well as socially and emotionally. And so a question that we get a lot is, how is GWA a Title I school? So you're eligible to be a Title I funded school through these 2 guidelines. The first one is percent of low-income students must be at least 35%. For charter schools, we must have at least 10 low-income children by federal definition, and low-income students must be at least 5% of the total school population. And so it's the second bullet point of how we are a Title I school. And there's Title I that's a school-wide, and so that would fall under the 35% threshold. Since we meet the 5% of total school population, that is 10 low-income children by the definition, or targeted assistance. And so those funds are targeted towards this low group with the benefit of others. And so we also free and reduced lunch. This is what determines the percentage of what we get funded for. And so the past school year, we had 17% of families that qualified for free and reduced lunch. And like I said, this is the percentage that dictates our annual funding amounts. And so if anybody on Zoom, anybody in here who has not already and qualifies to receive free and reduced lunch, they have applications in the front office. And so we definitely encourage this. It's a benefit for you, students. And like I said, this is what dictates the funding. And so once we're all finished, we're going to go through and we can do questions. But here's my information if you've got questions. It's just cmanzanaris@gwaacademy.org. I'm happy to answer any and all questions. I'm happy to point you in the direction if any of your questions are specific to any of our services right here. So this is Giles.
Right. So Mr. Manns mentioned that at GWA, we focus on meeting the needs of all students. Those students that come in with deficiencies and those who are well above grade level standards. So I'm going to introduce you to what we call a multi-tiered system of supports. This is a strong research-based model or structure that every successful school follows. So if you look at tier 1 and tier 2, this is where the instruction comes from the classroom teacher. And the reason we have tier 2 is for students who do not understand after explicit instruction on any given topic. So tier 2 instruction is a supplemental program. It's either remediation or it is extensions for our high. So here you see through tier 2 instruction, we meet the lows and the highs with either remediation or extension. And then I'll talk for just a moment about this tier 3 support, which involves Title I funds through our reading center. And then those individuals who help students in the tier 3 support are highly trained interventionists, or they come from our special education team. This diagram right here explains how teachers plan for tier 2 instruction. So we give the tier 1 instruction, and then tier 2 is for, again, students who need a little bit more practice, and then those students who are well beyond. So we as teachers give assessments. We are an assessment school, so we're constantly gathering data that will help us understand where each student is at. And then we will put them into, based on specific skills, if they are developing in that skill area, if they're approaching proficient, or if they're extending. And how we meet the needs of all of your children is through the assessment data, and then placing them in a 45-minute class, 45 minutes a day, Monday through Thursday, in one of these groups. Now, you may have a child that is developing in reading or in a reading topic or a reading skill, like fluency, but then maybe they are in proficiency for comprehension. So this is a very fluid structure based specifically on assessments and data that we get from those assessments. This is happening, like I said, Monday through Thursday, and again, reaching the needs of all students. We follow some guiding principles when we look at tier 2 instruction. We have found through research and through experience that it absolutely is necessary for a school to be successful to have this built-in time every day. So you might ask, why are we taking 45 minutes of the school day to remediate or extend? Well, because that is where success and student learning is best measured, and student growth is something that will happen. So collaborative teams are made up of grade levels. So you'll have your first grade team, all the teachers on the first grade team, your second grade team, that would be considered a collaborative team. They're providing effective interventions based on data. They're going to target specific skills, as I mentioned, and they're using the data to target instruction. And this is how we measure that growth throughout the school year. Once again, you'll see that tier model. Tier 3, this is where, Mrs. Giles, this is where I serve in the school, and I am with 6 highly trained interventionists who follow the University of Utah's STEPS program. And through this tier 3 intensive support, we're able to close the gap on reading skills that some of our students have. So this is where the Title I money goes to pay for our interventionists and to pay for the program that we use to help our students. Any questions?
I have one.
Sorry, yeah.
So when you had the 4 things, do they go, like, does each teacher take one specific
Yes,
group?
great
And do
question.
they-
I'm so sorry. Oh, we got to go to the smaller one. You're seeing what's about to come. Close your eyes. Okay.
So
Yeah.
if they are developing one day, would they go like Monday, but then if they're proficient in another area, would they go on Thursday?
Great question. They will stay with developing until that skill has been mastered, until the teacher can say they are proficient in that skill. So they will stay with.
How often do they change?
We cycle through about a 6-week cycle, 4 to 6 weeks, but really it's again, it's so fluid. It's based on
So the kids.
the group and the skills. So I might have a class where we're focusing again on fluency, and I have 3 kids that have passed through approaching, they are proficient. So I'm going to move them out of my class and onto the next group. So the student is not where they don't need to be. Great question. All right.
Is that in reference just to the reading?
No, this is the general school-wide model. So your child might say, we have Patriot time. We had Patriot time today. This is the Patriot time model. Tier 3 is reading center. But I'm glad you asked that question, because when all of the students in the grade go to their classroom for one of these levels, we have our students who have the most significant need come to the readings.
So for math, they do something similar, like this is just reading.
It's based on, yes, so each grade level can determine, do our students in this grade level need tier 2 instruction during Patriot time for mathematics?
Okay.
If not, they create another model that works for their grade level. We also have tier 2 instructions embedded in our tier 1 instruction. So for example, a teacher might give 20 minutes of core instruction, and she might say, oh, I've got about 3 or 4 students that need a repeat of this instruction. I'm going to pull them right now during this tier 1 schedule and provide a little extra attention and help for those students. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I think I'm next. All right, we'll go. And there's Christine's information if you want it. It's right there. Am I in the right spot?
Yes, thank you.
Am I on the X? Okay, all right. I am Miss Towns. I am the special education director. And so I want to give you some background on special education. And I know for some reason, there's kind of this misconception about how special education works in a charter school. So we are still federally funded. So we still have to apply, and we do apply all the federal rules that are applicable to any district school. So I have bold and underlined the key components because that's a lot to read, but essentially special education is specially designed instruction, not tutoring, because that's kind of where we get instruction to meet the unique needs of a student with a disability. So really this is looking at when Christine showed the tier 3 model. So we have the reading center, the tier 3, and then any students who qualify with a disability for special education, that's considered a tier 3 level of intervention or remediation as well. And I'll leave that up there if you want to browse it really quickly. It's a lot of legal stuff, but essentially it's just meaning that we're going to give them specially designed instruction in their deficit areas. Okay, I got it right. Okay, so we have goals, not only does the federal government, but we as a school take these goals. So there's 6 of them that are really, really, really the key to our legal process. And this IDEA is something that happened back many years ago. And the intent is that you are going to have, your student is going to have the same rights as other students who do not have a disability. So these 6 basic things are a free and appropriate public education. We call that FAPE. An appropriate evaluation. So this is saying that they're going to be given an assessment by a trained person, typically our school psychologist, to determine if they have a disability or not, unless you have already come from another school that has deemed that disability. We also want an individualized education program, which we call the IEP. So based on the evaluation that is conducted or provided, we look at the deficits, and then we're going to look at, okay, what instruction do we need to provide to help remediate that? And then the least restrictive environment, that's kind of abbreviated as the LRE. So essentially that's saying that the goal is that the student, even with any level of disability, is going to spend their majority of their time in their general education classroom with as minimal time as possible being pulled out of that classroom for their special education instruction time. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then parent and student participation in decision-making. So the big thing about this process is we are all the team. We as a school don't have the right to tell you as a parent what we're going to do or what we're going to offer or not offer. This is a team decision. So we're all doing this together. It's the special education department, the general education team, and parents. And if the student's old enough, we can include the student as well. We don't see that as much at the elementary level, but we can for some of the older grades. And then procedural due process. So that is your right as a parent to be able to say, if you disagree, you have a due process right that you can go through, and we provide all the legal reading information for you on that. It's great. So what does it look like at GWA? Because that's the one thing, like I said, there's kind of this misconception at a charter school, what it looks like. We support all students. So we have students with mild, moderate disabilities. Typically that's called like a pull-out service or a resource room. So the majority of the time is in their general education classroom. And then during Patriot time, which Christine explained, that 45 minutes, for the most part, it does change based on their IEP. That's when we would pull them into the special education room to give them their IEP minutes and their instruction on their deficit areas. We also have students with significant disabilities in our life skills classroom. So these are students who are in a self-contained classroom because their disability is significant enough that they don't have a lot of benefit from being in a general education classroom. Some we do for social skills, some we do for some instruction, but we do have that pretty significant level of classroom as well. And then we also have related services. We offer speech and language services, occupational therapy, and physical therapy services. So we provide all those through a student's IEP if they're eligible. This is a really big diagram, but I wanted to show you that the process that we take is pretty significant. So we don't take anything lightly. So kind of the blue up here is if a staff has a concern about a student, we have a very detailed process that we go through. If a parent has a request or concern, we're going to go through this, and then we get to that evaluation that we talked about. And if they're going to qualify or not, then we go through the IEP process, and then we kind of have this whole big purple component of the IEP. So it's a very detailed, in-depth process where every step we have requirements along the way that we're going to meet to ensure that we're meeting your child's needs. And there's my information. We probably have, do we have time for questions? Questions. That was a lot of legal stuff.
504, would it start saying?
That's a great question. So a 504, yes. So let me go back. So typically what we do here, I hope I don't get in trouble for coming on this side. So if we have a parent or student request, we're going to come down here, and then we are going to look at some data, and then we come down here to an evaluation determination meeting. And so at this meeting, we look at all of the data that we've gathered, possibly from the reading center, possibly from the classroom, and say, okay, at this point, do they need specially designed instruction, which is special education, or do they just need accommodations and modifications, which is what a 504 qualifies them for. So this is kind of that juncture point where we look at, are we going to go 504? Are we going to go IEP? What's the status point? So great question. Other questions? Okay. Oh, I got one.
Hey, I am Carrie McCoy, and I have the amazing opportunity to kind of oversee the Leader in Me program at our school. And as you can tell, we have an amazing academic program, and which is so important. And we also have programs that help to round out the whole student and to have them be good human beings. So Leader in Me, we started this about 5 years ago, and it has been this program that has just evolved into this amazing way of life here at GWA. And it's based off of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You may have heard of that program that has been around for decades and decades, but this is especially designed for schools. And so it's based on the 5 core paradigms of the Leader in Me are: everyone can be a leader, everyone has genius, change starts with me, empower students to lead their own learning, and educators and families partner to develop the whole person. So that's what it's based on. And then we have some amazing things that just build from there. So the core paradigms are up here, and that's what we aspire to see happening in our school. And then the next part is what we do to achieve these 5 paradigms. One of them is leadership, culture, and academics. Those are the 3 main areas that we focus on, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail in just a second about that. But then if we see this, we do this, then we get highly effective students and adults who are leaders in their school and community, a high trust school culture where every person's voice is heard and their potential is affirmed, and engaged students who are equipped to achieve and entrusted to lead their own learning. I mean, isn't that like just the epitome of what you want to be able to see? And hopefully you were able to come with your student and see them leading their own learning last week in the student-led conferences, which we just fully embraced this year. Well, I guess that second half of last year, but this year everyone is doing them. So I think it's just an amazing program. And then I get to come in and teach the 7 habits to the kids, which has just been an amazing opportunity. It's been so much fun to see it go from, I'm just trying to get them to understand what the 7 habits are, to this year. At the beginning of our lessons, I asked them if any of them have an example of how they have lived the habit, or if they've seen someone, and just to hear them use the language of the 7 habits. And, oh yeah, my mom was proactive because she made my lunch, you know, that kind of stuff. But it's really good to see them naming the habits and being able to use them and see them in their own life. So that's been amazing. Back to these three parts of our school and the Leader in Me program. What is so fantastic is that it's not just a fluffy little, oh, that's cute, they get to be a leader. It is, our whole school is involved in this structure. And so Mrs. Stevens and I are the coordinators of this Lighthouse team, is what it's called. And Mr. Clark is the administrative advisor. So together we chose the Lighthouse team leaders, and then we have all of the, so this becomes the Lighthouse team. There's 2 teachers on each of these structures, and then all of the faculty and even some of our part-time people and support staff will sign up to be on one of these committees. And they meet together once a month. They plan all of these things. We have a 5-year plan of what we want to see happening in the adults learning and modeling, teach students to lead, leadership environment, shared leadership, achieving goals, and empowering learners. And so it's really intense, and it's a great program because everybody's involved in it. And then the other thing that we have is our student Lighthouse team, which is 25 kids, about 25 kids who had to go through an application process at the end of last year. And they were interviewed by myself and Tracy Baker, who's a fourth grade teacher, is over the Lighthouse team. And then another faculty member that would come in, and they had to go through this interview process, and they had to be chosen, and they had to be able to be responsible enough to leave class and be able to help out with the assemblies and things like that. But these students meet once a week at 7:15 in the morning, and they plan the assemblies. They take on leadership responsibilities whenever anyone needs anything. It's really a great group of kids, and they are so excited to be leaders in our school. So that's been really fun. So with that, the whole thing is giving all kids leadership opportunities. And I don't know if you've noticed our little leadership board down by the lunchroom, but we have 3 leadership opportunities all the time up there that kids can come and apply for. One of them is to be a tutor in the life skills room, which we've had a really good response from 3rd to 7th graders that want to go in and be tutors with them. And they get started, I think, this week. And they started today. So they're so excited about that. And there's been other things that they can do. So it's just a really great program. It helps our school just be so well-rounded. And this is, oh, I forgot this best part. Okay, so the grand finale. We are going through the process of being what we call a Lighthouse School. And we are applying for that this year. And it is quite a process. We have to keep track of every activity we've done for the last 5 years and go through all of this paperwork. And we have people come from the Leader in Me people. Yeah, that come and will interview people around the school and make sure that we are the leaders that we need to be. And so we are doing that this year, and I'm so excited to be able to become this Lighthouse School for others. We already have lots of schools from Nevada and surrounding areas that come to our school to see what we do here. So it's exciting to be a part of it. So that is Leader in Me, and this is me. Any questions? Yeah.
So the Lighthouse School is an organization outside the school that we hire as a school to help us teach people?
No, being a Lighthouse School just means that we are like an example of the Leader in Me structure in our school.
The curriculum within the school that's been created that would teach.
Right. And that's what the 7 habits are. That's what, the kids taking on all these leadership responsibilities and like the leadership day that we had last year where they showcased all of their leadership. That was part of qualifying to be a Lighthouse School. So, but then we have an outside entity that comes in and I don't know what's the right word, make sure that we are, ready for that. What?
Franklin Covey.
Yeah, it's Franklin Covey.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's with Franklin. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, I am McCall Spears and I run the Ready Bodies Learning Mind Motor Lab. This is something we actually just implemented 2 years ago. This program was created by an OT, Althena Odin, and she is incredible. She lives in like back east somewhere. I don't know, but she's awesome. I've had Zoom calls with her. I've done her trainings. She's super great. So the Ready Bodies Learning Mind Motor Lab provides children with a strong foundation of the basic knowledge and use of their bodies. So as they grow and develop certain skills, those will become automatic. Also, sorry, I have like no voice. So the Motor Lab addresses the needs of all of our students in task-oriented circuit training, supported by consistent foundational exercises offering developmental support for sensory and motor systems. So in short, the Motor Lab is a circuit training program to develop your sensory and motor skills. So the goals of the Motor Lab are to help, this is a lot of words, so I'm not going to read all of them, to help children develop the skills necessary for learning readiness. So in the school, what that looks like, they come into the motor lab, they get their bodies ready, they're developing their sensory, their gross, their motor skills. So then they can go in classroom, sit down and be ready to learn. This is to improve the children's ability to maneuver the function of their environment. And this helps again with like your handwriting, your sitting, paying attention, speaking, and behavior, stimulate the children's sensory systems, the ability to better control themselves and accomplish tasks by making children aware of their environment as well as themselves. And to build a structure for the acquisitions of academic skills. Here, K through second comes in twice a week. And then I do have smaller groups for the older grades, all of the life skills and all of the IEP, all of our special education students are coming in daily. Okay, that's me. Any questions? Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Part of what we do here at GWA is we offer our social and emotional supports as well. Because like Ms. McCoy said, we want to make sure that our students graduate GWA being very well-rounded. So we have a full-time counseling team. My name is Mrs. Bell. I am the school social worker and like a mental health therapist here. I'm Christine Staples. She's also a mental health therapist here. We've got Miss Merida, our school counselor. And then we also have a wellness center specialist who's in our wellness center at all times. And we have a behavior specialist as well, who does more intervention in the classrooms for behavior. So just like our academic structure has the tier model, our SEL does as well. So our tier 1 interventions are like the motor lab, which is available to all students, our parent nights, which is available to all students. We have a Hope Squad. We have our leader and me and our SEL lessons that are happening in the classroom for all students. And we've got our wellness center that's also an intervention for any student needing a break or needing to regulate. So that's offered at our tier 1 level. Our tier 2, if a kid is still struggling or maybe has different social and emotional or behavioral needs, then we have group counseling happening during the week during school. Those group sessions are once a week with the same group that attends together. And then we have our program called Check In and Check Out, but we call it CICO, C-I-C-O. So if you hear your kids talk about CICO, that's what that is. So it's a check in, check out. It's a earning program and a structured, well, you'll talk about it, but a structured like checklist that they take around to their teacher all day, and then they get points for whatever goals they're working on. And then we have our student support team, which is basically if our teachers or parents have concerns about certain kids, then they are referred to the student support team, and then interventions are worked out at a tier 2 level for those kids. Our tier 3 is a little bit more intense. That's more of our individual counseling or referring out to other resources outside of the school. Our wellness center is a break space available to all of our kids. It's a 10-minute timed break that they have to get a pass to come down and permission from their teacher. Then they can have a break just to get them back into a learning space and head back to class. This is a great way for them to learn to regulate their behavior and emotions to get back to a space where they're ready to learn. Our group counseling covers several topics. Anxiety management, family change, if any of these have occurred for that student, impulse control, which covers like attention, focus, our growth mindset, which is more of like a positive attitude and having better ways of talking to yourself, better self-talk and sense of self. Our empowerment group it's a little bit more of our older students, but it's exploring like who you want to be, what you hope to accomplish in life, and like what your strengths are, and focusing more positively on your own identity. And then we have social skill building as well. Last year, we served over 150 students across 19 counseling groups, 150 students per week, hitting a group counseling session in 19 groups that we're running every week. So it's a lot, but it's wonderful.
Alrighty, this is our check-in and check-out program.
it's a tier, like Brent said, it's a tier 2 program, intervention program. And students are usually referred either from the student or the counseling team, or as a parent, refer your students to us.
And the
Um,
teacher.
Yeah, and the teacher.
Mhm.
And what it is we, it's like a positive boost to your child's academic success. And what they do is they meet one-on-one with a mentor every morning to check in to see how they're doing and to just establish a positive relationship with someone in the school that cares about them, so they know that they can come to them and check in with them and see how they're doing and how they're, what their goals are. We develop target behaviors with the parents and with the teachers on things that they might need to work on in the classroom, like if they're having low engagement, if they're having some problems managing their behaviors in the classroom, the teachers can, help us say there's some things that they need to work on. So we develop those together as a team, and then they get these daily point sheets in which they take to their teachers every day, and they can earn a score from a 1 to a 4 this year, because we're following that developing, approaching, proficient, and then extending. And then they check out, the teacher they score them during their different, like if it's writing, CKLA, all those different things, they give them a score, and then at the end of the day, they leave positive comments on what they were doing well, and how they're doing during that time. And then they check out with the mentor, and we add up their points, and at the end of the day, they can either buy something from the store, or they can save them for bigger things. And it kind of starts as an external and motivation, but we've seen even last year, it kind of grows into an internal thing. Like at first they're really excited to buy the little toys or the little, trinkets or something like that. But by the end of the year, they're just like, oh no, I just want to see how many points I can get. In fact, today we've had a kid that he had saved 1,000 points. He hadn't spent a single point this whole entire season. So he was so happy. So yeah. Okay, is it working? This is from last year's data, but what it says is like, these were the number of kids in the SECO program. And this was like, every week we start like 40% of the time, we want your child to be meeting these target behaviors, whether it's like sitting in his chair, not being disruptive, focusing or working independently, or 50%, 60%, 70% of the time. And I track it on a weekly basis. Every day we add up we do the scores and we track it. And then at the end of the week, I send an email home to the parents and to the teachers so that we are all on the same team and we're all on the same pages. Are these target behaviors, are they working? Are they at the right level? Are they too high? Are they too low? Or are they just right? Are we seeing progress? Is this a right fit for this kid? And so it shows that over time, like through the months, that we really are seeing positive growth for these kids. So the big picture is mental health counseling services in a school setting is really comprehensive. Really what we're doing is we're trying to provide wraparound services for these children, because like it was said earlier that we want every kid to be successful here at GWA, and that we really want to provide that emotional support, and really we're focused on prevention, and that we really want to address their social emotional needs. So we're excited to support your children. Thank you. Feel free to reach out.
Lots of info on all of us. Any questions? Yeah, please.
What are you introducing the wellness center?
Wellness center is the whole school.
So I'm coming back to kindergarten, second grade. How do you encourage them, or when do you encourage them to go to the teacher thing?
Awesome question. So the first week of school, every classroom takes a tour. They're walked down there, they're shown where it is, they take a tour, it's kind of explained to them. It's taught in one of our SEL lessons in all of the classrooms. And then every classroom has a pass. And in the younger grades, it is kind of like a little bit coached by the teacher, like, oh, it looks like you're really upset, or hey, it looks like you're getting really frustrated. Do you feel like maybe a wellness center break would be good? So at that age, if they're not quite able to really assess when they need a break, we're kind of helping them gain that skill. And then they are escorted to the wellness center, especially kinder first. We're not like, okay, see ya. So they just call like, hey, can someone come and take one of our kids? And someone's always in the wellness center. Our wellness center specialist is there
Miss Harward, and she's amazing. She's like the child whisperer. She just gets them regulated and sent back, and it's miraculous. But what she's training there as well is like, hey, let's notice what helped you. You know, let's notice the kind of tools you used today. And did you think that helped you? Like, how could you then use that at home or even in your classroom? And so a lot of what we're using in the Wellness Center is applicable to the classroom in ways like, well, you could have a fidget in your desk that you use, or you could lay your head down and do that in your class. You know, just teaching them kind of how to regulate in the classroom, or they're always, you know, welcome to use that Wellness Center. There are limits on that. Sometimes they'll ask for a Wellness Center break and it's not an appropriate time. It's like, this is math instruction. I know it's frustrating right now, but you really need to not miss this instruction. How about we finish just the next few minutes of instruction and then I'll give you a break. So the teachers still kind of guide a little bit of when it's an appropriate time to take a break and when it's like, that would be kind of more frustrating if you took a break and missed this instruction. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
So for the group counseling, how do you go about, like, one thing I was like, oh, I'm something, you know, we don't buy that. How do you?
Perfect. You can email any of us on this list, and or you can talk to your student's teacher. Teachers refer, parents refer. We kind of build those groups just based on need. So as those referrals come in, what we'll do when we get our email like that is talk to your child's teacher and then give you a call and kind of say like, okay, what are you seeing and what do you think would benefit your student? And we just go from there.
You had a slide with tiers and then also showed the percentage that how what percentage of the students are utilizing this service.
Great question.
So
Yeah. This just doesn't want to do what I'm telling it to do. Okay. Yes. So 100% of our students are getting tier 1 services. Those are all available to the 100% of our student body. Tier 2, it's about 15% of our student body that's been identified as needing more like specialized instruction in behavior and social skills or wellness. Or what, 15% is noticed that it's impacting their education.
So it doesn't mean it's stopped at 15%. It could be 20.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is just our stats of like our average, and we watch that because of course we want to know if we're statistically normative or if it's like, wow, we have a lot more need than what we're seeing across the county or across the state, so those things. Tier 3 is about 5%. So that's a small population of kids that really require that more highly intensive individual counseling, which we do offer here.
where do we stand across the county, across the state?
We're actually almost exactly where they say you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
This is statistically where they kind of say like, this is about, if you're higher than these, like you're not actually providing enough support on tier 1. So as these numbers, we watch these numbers because if they start rising, it's like, we need to support better down here. Great question.
I don't know if this is, I know you're talking about counseling, so that's why I wondered, maybe you're so. My daughter's teacher sent us an email at the beginning of the school year with like their schedule, and on it has like specials, and one of the specials was the counseling. Do you guys go in every, once a week it shows? Because I was trying to ask her, and she was just super straight, so she wasn't quite understanding what I was trying to ask. I'm like, do they come in and talk to you? So that's just what I'm wondering.
Yes, I love it.
Let's go in.
A great question. So all of your students, all the students in our school have Patriot Time, which is that like academic extra support. And then they also have their specials, which, are like art and music and computers. Well, one of their specials once a week is this social and emotional lessons by Miss Merida. So it is our counselor that goes in and teaches lessons on emotional skills and social skills. And then every other week, is that right? Every other week?
Yes, so Mrs. McCoy and I trade off every other week.
So one week your student will have Ms. McCoy teaching leader and niece like skills and those habits, those 7 habits she talked about. And then the other week they'll have the counselor, Miss Merida, come in and teaching the social and emotional.
And the curriculum I use is based on values. So we talk about honesty, we talk about this month we're talking about responsibility, like it's just a value each month. And if you read the newsletters, all of that information is in the newsletter each month as well, what we're teaching.
And Miss Merida's great too. If a classroom has a specific need, say there's a struggle in this classroom with something specific, she will do a specific lesson for your classroom on that. So she really does tailor it to the needs of the classroom as well.
I can give an example of an experience that you had in the past where that was necessary. What did you teacher have?
Just any.
Class, yeah, any example. Classroom that was having.
Just today.
Oh.
We've got lots.
Okay, so yeah, we received an email from one of the teachers. She's the lead for one of our grades, the lead teacher. And she said, we've had some recent instances of kids teasing each other, maybe taking it too far. And so next month is anti-bullying or bullying awareness month. So I'm going to be teaching that the whole month because it's something we for sure always need to talk about. Kindness.
Yeah. So how would you teach? And then my question, what's the lesson?
Oh gosh, I mean, I could pull it up, but we do some role playing, like we talk about kindness, we watch a video, maybe read a book about kindness. It's very much like, yeah, very developmentally appropriate. And we also do a lot of like examples, like what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? Like just putting it into practice.
Yeah, the lessons are different per grade.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like, your first grade, you'll see a little cartoon video and let's talk about it. And then our older grades, it's much more of a discussion. The kids are really engaging in that, like how to exhibit that value. Yeah. These are great questions, you guys, because we're so passionate about what we do here and we love it. It's so fun to talk about. We love all of the things happening for the students. That's it.
That's it.
Guys,
Do you
that's
have
all.
any other questions for us?
Yeah, that's all I was gonna say. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions specific